Hello there. How glorious! The Labour government has placed itself squarely in between a human rights rock and a human rights hard place, and yet they still refuse to consider leaving the ECHR. As I suggested in yesterday's video, Keir Starmer has jumped his Labour government straight into the human rights meat grinder. On at least two fronts. Simply stated, he set his government up to fail. Because he is about to find out that, shock horror, the wealthy also have human rights. Yes, human rights are not the preserve of the poor. Yes, his socialist tendency to view the wealthy as a sort of subhuman species, except of course for the champagne socialists, where it's always different, along the lines of the eco-nutters who live in hotels and private jets all year round and then lecture us about our eco-failures. That socialist view that the wealthy are to be treated as a type of vermin is going to come back and bite Starmer hard. He's going to find out that human rights laws apply equally to all, not just newcomers and their legal hangers-on gaming the system. Wouldn't that be delicious to see the human rights lawyer turned politician have his brand new stick it to the wealthy laws rejected under the very human rights laws that favour foreign criminals over Brits that Starmer is adamant must stay in place? So Starmer says he wants to get tough on borders, does he? So he scraps the few weak attempts that his Tory predecessors made to try and address the problem, like the Rwanda scheme, the Bibi Stockholm, and the use of ex-military bases, as well as saying he'd be ending the use of hotels for asylum seekers. And he replaces it all with essentially nothing, except for hiring ever more staff to rubber stamp applicants more speedily into the country. Knowing full well that, just like the Tories, any attempt to deport will be met by coordinated mobs descending on any deportation proceedings, probably tipped off by Home Office staff. Followed by protracted court cases ending up with failure due to our membership of the ECHR and the existence of the 1998 Human Rights Act that enshrines the ECHR into UK law. So ending up with the deportees being given indefinite leave to remain. Starmer knows all this, so he obviously doesn't want to stop illegal migration. He just wants to make it into a legal process. And part of that seems to be the replacing of the word illegal with irregular, as in this post on X they put out recently. Although I will point out that the Tories had also been using that phrase, irregular migration, while they were in power. So in the end it could become customary international law that no one could argue with. Coupled with there appearing to be no talk from Labour about limiting legal migration. You have to wonder whether Starmer wants to stop anyone who wants to, even the undesirables, from coming into the UK, don't you? But if he's shutting all the camps and hotels down, where do these people live? Well, we're building 1.5 million new homes, aren't we? And Labour has already stated that the newcomers will have access to those new homes. But they have to be built first, at the rate of 300,000 a year. And don't forget all that extra infrastructure needed to service those additional homes. And planning rules based on eco-requirements have been used to stop houses and road building in the past. And environmental concerns have now been dragged into the realm of human rights laws too. So expect the well-funded eco-loons to be taking all that planning permission through the courts, slowing it right down. Then there's the eco-blockaders and tunnellers to contend with, of course. But the Green Lobby does have a big problem here. They are, at heart, a hard socialist grouping, only wearing a green cloak as a veneer to hide it. So stopping house building that would give homes to newcomers using green issues as an excuse might put them in a very difficult position. Because if they don't challenge the house building, they'd be showing us their true socialist colours, wouldn't they? Anyway, even if Labour rammed through planning laws, they'd still be slowed down in the courts. And then there's the matter of too few skilled tradespeople to build their houses in the first place. Lots of degrees, but no bricklayers. As an example, according to DecideTimberframe.co.uk, we will need 266,000 additional builders by 2026. And that's after the hundreds of thousands of newcomers we already do allow into the country every single year. So we'd have to import even more people. And their families, of course. Right to a family life and all that. But there's also the issue of compulsory purchase. Labour wants those with land to be forced to give it up cheap for house building. But the experts are saying that would be against ECHR human rights laws. Because even the rich landed gentry have human rights. So loads of people are going to be arriving with no room at the inn. Whose stable shall we put them in? I bet Starmer is hoping that will force through his 1.5 million house building programme over 5 years. But I somehow doubt it. In fact, we might see him having to backtrack pretty fast. On previous performance, because of all these constraints, the UK started about 160,000 houses a year. So after 4 years, that would be 860,000 houses to be built in the 5th and final year of his programme. And the newcomers will still be coming in thick and fast. While Starmer finds out that human rights do not change just because there's now a Labour government. This will not end well. Well, it won't end well for Starmer anyway. But Starmer may well have another human rights headache coming along the tracks. The King's speech included, measures will be brought forward to remove the exemption from value-added tax for private school fees, which will enable the funding of 6,500 new teachers. The trouble is that according to two very prominent human rights lawyers, this would breach human rights laws. Lords Leicester and Pannick had advised school boards as early as back in 1982 that interfering in such a way with private education would breach both Article 1 and 2 of the first protocol to the Convention. Another indication that even in the new socialist Britain, the unworthy wealthy also have human rights. That would not go down well within the harder left ranks of the Labour Party, which is most of them. Now, if legal experts say that some of Labour's plans go against human rights laws, then when they publish their bills, how can they state on the front of them that they are in accordance with the ECHR? Remember, the bill has to have the statement right on the front of it that it is or is not compatible with the European Convention on Human Rights. And Keir Starmer would never want to mislead Parliament by having the wrong statement on the front of the bill, would he? Anyway, I think our new Prime Minister will end up hating the ECHR more than the last lot did.